off the early curve, and that's a lot of 3-2s that'll become barreling down with a lot of power.
Yeah, Kranich with a very, very strong opening hand here. He looks like he's actually not going to play the Flame Imp in turn 1, instead choosing to just point out the Knife Juggler.
I believe this might be because he saw that Thijs replaced all of his starting hand cards. And when you see a warrior replace all of those cards, and he knows that you're Zoo, you can kind of predict that the chances for him to have the Fiery War Axe are lower than they would be in case the warrior, let's say, kept 3 cards.
Plus, the upside of this is a lot of damage. Every single minute that you're able to play with a second Knife Juggler is two more damage that you would normally do if you just had the Knife Juggler go with the regular curve, because you'd be ahead of it that way.
It also allows Kranich to use his mana more efficiently over the opening turns. He can play the turn 1 Knife Juggler, then play the turn 2 Juggler, and then play, say, Flame Imp and Hero Power, or something like that Imp Gang boss he drew just this turn. If he did play Flame Imp and then played Knife Juggler the next turn, he wouldn't have a great opportunity to use that coin in a future turn.
Dead Spite is an alright draw. He would have preferred the Fire War Axe to start clearing those, but he still has a decent play with the Acolyte of Pain and the Inner Rage, if he wants to go for the Inner Rage here.
Chooses not to Inner Rage his Acolyte, which will potentially allow Thijs to remove it fairly easily.
That's right. Well, I mean, Kranich can remove it, but Thijs can also use the Inner Rage defensively.
Yes,
so that way he can kill off whatever 3-2 ends up picking it off.
But the most likely option, though, is that he wants to go for those Patrons on turn 5. With the Dead Spite, with the Grim Patron in his hand, and the Inner Rage, he can produce 4 Patrons on turn 5.
And this, just like we were talking about earlier, the 2 Jugglers into 2 creatures, 2 minions on turn 3. Kranich using his mana very efficiently and putting Thijs under a ton of pressure.
Yeah, Thijs already down to 21 and looking at 11 power on the board. He can clear one of those right now. He can also play the Dread Corsair. It seems like probably something that he has to do. Oh. Doesn't go for it just.
Wow.
Yeah, potentially he is afraid of Implosion. That would have been a little bit bad, because he would have given out a good target for it.
This sort of position, I'm actually a little surprised, because of how much pressure Thijs is under, that he didn't necessarily take the sort of calculated risk of potentially allowing an Implosion from Kranich to be powerful, because he's going to take 8 more damage this turn at least.
Right, with a 9th point, of course, coming from the Knife Juggle itself. Thijs could be thinking that his only chance is to come back through a Grim Patron board. But it's going to be a really tough climb, considering that he's at a low 10 HP already. And the aggression is going to continue to come.
Yeah, I mean, he can play the Patron, he can play the Corsair, he can Inner Rage the Patron, make a bunch of Patrons, but he has to attack into something with that weapon now.
He is going to go for the Inner Rage on his own minion instead of one of Kranich's 3-2s, which would have allowed a little bit more clear, but I believe if he does the Inner Rage, he just might be dead to the Power Overwhelming.
Yeah, the Power Overwhelming to come through on the other end would be too much. Thijs can use the Inner Rage, like you said, aggressively to kill off one of those minions that has 2 health remaining. But if he does, what's the likelihood of him coming back into the game?
I think it's kind of the winning play to just play the Inner Rage right on the Patron. Otherwise, it's just you're playing not to lose. And how do you win the game in the long run if the Warlock even manages to clear both of your Patrons off the board?
He's gonna get the damage on his Dread Corsair to potentially set up a battle.
Oh, he could try to hit the Juggle on one of his.
Oh yeah.
One of his Patrons here.
Oh,
from the Imp Gang boss.
And that was what he was hoping for, I think.
No, not this.
No, and it ends up hitting the 1-1, or the 3-2, so that the 1-1 can trade easily, and that's a very clear Power Overwhelming.
Yep, and that's with that Power Overwhelming, Kranich is going to force a game 5 here in this first set of the day.
So, setting up a date with the Warrior versus the Hunter, a classic rivalry between these 2 classes.
Not necessarily the classic style of the 2 decks, though. Usually you expect the Warrior decks to be these slow, controlling sort of decks, but we have the more mid-range style of Patron Warrior deck, and I think that this deck is actually in a position where it may struggle against Hunter.
It can go either way, I would say. Sometimes Savannah High Mains are so good against that, against the Patron Warrior, but also those board clears from Thijs against the snakes and whatever the small minions are, he can just clear all of those so easily with so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it'll come down one more time to a Hunter versus the Patron, which I believe that Thijs was telling me he doesn't feel very confident in this matchup specifically. He feels like you definitely want those old Warsong commanders back into the deck, especially against a class like Hunter. However, he's practiced it many times since then, so maybe he's even more comfortable today than he was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he was saying earlier this was one of the matchups he was hoping to avoid, but definitely still one that he has the ability to win.
Absolutely, and For his sake, he really needs to pick up the Fire War Axe this time. It helps so much. That knife juggler into flaming, all of that stuff, it's just too much to handle, yeah.
Too much damage. And so that was the end of Game 4. Game 5 is coming up. Who will go to the semifinals? We'll find out right after we get a few words with Thijs about some of his trips around the world.
If you want to be a competitive Hearthstone player, you just really have to look at yourself. And with yourself, it's not only your Hearthstone gameplay, but also just, yeah, look who you are and look what will be the best for you. People always ask me, yeah, I show...
All right, well, Thijs, looks like we ran out of time. Sorry, we're going to game number 5 here in just a second to determine who is going to be semifinalist number 1. One thing, again, that's so cool is that Kranich got this far last year with people underestimating him. And I feel like it's almost the same case yet again. This guy comes in as the only player to repeat performances. And yet, despite all this, he's still flown under the radar. Is he about to get a second semifinal berth here at the HWC?
I think he's in a really good position here. We were just saying that Thijs feels like this is probably the weakest matchup against Kranich's lineup for his Patron Warrior deck, and I have to imagine that Kranich is feeling good going to this last game.
Yeah, many people favor Thijs or predict Thijs to be the winner here, but Kranich is not a bad player. It's just Thijs has been on such like a hot streak lately. But Kranich here showing that he definitely can put up a good fight.
Yeah, and Kranich's accomplishment as the only returning player, definitely huge, but somewhat overshadowed by Thijs' incredible run. But we will see which of them continues that right here, right now.
Well, look at that, 1, 2, 3 for Kranich. Not much more he could hope for.
I would keep that. It's pretty good.
Yeah, the power of Hunter is to be able to drop something every single turn and threaten the Warrior very proactively. Leading ideally to your 6 and 7 mana plays of Savannah Highmane and your Dr. Boom. Then you use the board to be able to push for damage lethal after you controlled it for such a long time. Tyson, the same way, is going to be looking to do that, although he's got different cards to interact with the Hunter's cards, that is.
Yeah, but there's some options here. He could keep the Slam or the Acolyte. Maybe even the Gnomish. Execute certainly getting thrown back. It seems too early for that. He could also just replace everything and try to go aggressively for that Axe.
Yeah, much like against the Warlock deck, Thijs really looking to pick up Fiery War Axe. He wants to be able to contain the early minion damage that Kranich is hoping to do, and Kranich has just the tools to do exactly that.
Yeah, we can already see how important that Axe would be. And Thijs choosing to only keep the Acolyte, wants to have that turn 3.
There is Fiery War Axe.
Fiery War Axe, and we have a game.
Yeah, Thijs with exactly the tool that he was looking to pick up in his mulligan phase. Kranich picks up a second copy of Animal Companion, so we're gonna have quite the game here, I think.
Yeah, excellent hands from both of these players. Wow, worthy game 5 for sure.
Yeah, that Unstable Ghoul is really powerful to control all those other small shenanigans like the snake traps or unleash the hounds from getting too far away. Plus, the Acolyte of Pain tucked behind the Unstable Ghoul is a very powerful synergy to continue to draw cards while controlling too many minions from being able to flood it.
And I like this play from Kranich here, choosing to deploy the Mad Scientist rather than the Knife Juggler here. The Mad Scientist, even if it dies, will give him that trap, which, because he has Snake and the Bear Trap, will actually effectively equate to a free minion or group of minions, and also works very well with the Animal Companion here. Yep. Whereas Juggler can have a lot of effect later on.
And pulling that trap out of the deck as fast as you can is usually a good thing, because then you're less likely to draw into it later on in the game.
And now Thijs, yeah, he's got an interesting spot here.
Snakes.
Yeah, but he does have the ability to attack into the Misha, and it does 4 damage to himself, but he'll be able to clear off all of Kranich's board with that Whirlwind.
It's Snakes. Acolyte Whirlwind.
Oh, that's such a big moment. Whoa.
Yeah, this is huge.
This is perfect for Thijs right now.
We even see Thijs let out a sigh, sigh of relief here, as that was exactly the trap he was hoping for. Coin Whirlwind off the Acolyte will pick him up a card and clear Kranich's entire board.
And he still has that 1-2 on the board, which is going to help activating those executes and the Battle Rage later on.
Yeah, and those things just continue to chain off each other. The more cards you draw deeper in your deck, the more likely you have the resources to keep the board clear and be able to use it to push aggressively for a win.
Yep. 4 mana for Kranich. Nothing is perfect here, but he does have some options. He could go for Juggler, Quick Shot. He could also go for the Animal Companion. The Timber Wolf probably not gonna get anything done just yet, but later on, with an Unleash the Hounds, it might be excellent.
All right, so Leok probably what Kranich least wanted to see here. Not really able to push any damage immediately, and
oh man,
relatively easy for Thijs to remove with that second fiery rock.
That's great. Now Thijs can draw even more with Battle Rage, and then follow up a play by killing off this Leok and setting up another weapon. Maybe even more, depending on what he draws.
You could just go for the ghoul as well. That seems pretty good to me, because with that Leok, there's only 2 damage, and the ghoul does have 3 HP. And if it gets killed, if there's an easy way for Kranich to deal 3 to it, the Acolyte will still throw an extra card.
That is true. I think one thing that you are worried about is Houndmaster from being able to load up too big of a board, but you do have that Execute to back it up the following turn.
Yeah, certainly some options here. Fire War Axe trade, or just Unstable Cool Phase. Both seem pretty good. Something like an Execute play here would probably not make any sense, because the Axe seems so much better over it.
But one thing I do like about the Unstable Ghoul is that it'll keep a minion on the board, so that way you can have Fiery War Axe. Or you can use Fiery War Axe to not take too much health, because if he didn't have any minions on board, his activators was either Whirlwind from hand or Weapon, and both those are really costly.
So the Unleash the Hounds picked up by Kranich, usually good against an opponent with a few minions in play, but pretty weak against the Ghoul itself.
Yeah, usually also very good when you have a Leok on the board.
Yeah,
but
he has Knife Juggler and Leok and Unleash, and those are just not what he wants to play.
Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, there is a quick shot onto the Unstable Ghoul, and then you kill off the Acolyte, but you give 2 cards to your opponent. Not to mention that he indirectly gets what he wants anyways, which was to kill the Leok very easily with something like Fiery War Axe, or even more.
No, he's trying to juggle it though. Does not hit it, so now he has to use the Leok. He wants to deal with it right now.
Attack into it with Leok helps prevent Thijs from being able to use the Acolyte to attack whenever he wants. Ooh, that's a good pickup for Thijs there. Another weapon, Death's Bite.
So the Death's Bite allows him to threaten the patrons next turn. He executes the Leok, kills off the Juggler, and then will the next turn clear off the Timberwolf with the Whirlwind effect. This is looking like Thijs has an opportunity to flip the board very soon, although Kranich will be looking to put his most powerful cards up in the next couple turns.
Yeah, even though the Execute might seem like it was kind of lightly used, and that was not a big minion at all, he does have that second Execute in his hand, which allows him to use the first one more lightly.
And so we can even see Thijs play the Grim Patron, attack Kranich's face, potentially, and then execute that Savannah High Main. He could attack into the High Main, but that's a lot of damage to take.
Yeah, probably too much at this point. Yes, you feel comfortable. Yes, you even have Armor Smith, but I don't think it's a good idea to try and attack the High Main directly.
Oh, wow, he actually just chooses to Whirlwind and leave the High Main in play.
He's going super aggressive.
Yeah, he just wants as many of these Grim Patrons getting in here as possible, especially with that Armor Smith in his hand. Getting a significant number of additional minions in play will allow him to potentially use them as resources to regain health as well.
Yep, strong play. And Thijs also realized that there's not all that many things that he would lose to straight away. You could double kill command Abusive Surge.
But that
would be pretty much the only thing.
A lot of damage. Houndmaster on the Savannah High Main crunches Thijs down to just 7 life, but that Armor Smith in his hand.
That's so big. And he has Execute to follow up to make sure that he can keep some of these patrons alive and copy them while doing more damage.
He can actually execute the High Main, attack into 2 of the 2/2s, trade off his 3/1 into the Houndmaster, leave Kranich with absolutely nothing in play, and gain a bunch of armor.
Yeah, Thijs is taking a commanding lead in this game right now. Kranich, we can see it on his face. He's not happy about this. The game is slipping away from him right now.
Right. I mean, he will have some more damage with the Unleash the Hounds. The more patrons that come up, the more hounds that spawn onto the board. But it's, again, all these minions are gaining more armor and more life for Thijs to put himself out of range.
Yeah. But if there is something like a second animal companion, he does roll that Leok there.
He's actually played both as well. He's already played both.
That is true. That is true. You are correct, Brian. Both of those animal companions were played very early on in the game, so I don't know what Kranich can do to come back into this. Or would a kill command do it? I don't think so.
Looks like.
All right, so he chooses to maximize it instead. He will be at 13 HP, which is still susceptible to the kill command.
Kill command would still do it.
Everyone
exactly lethal if he picked up the kill command here.
And that web spinner is not it.
That is not it. Good news for Thijs fans.
But that means Kranich has to spend this turn clearing because the patron presence is too much.
Yeah, he can use the Unleash the Hounds and remove the 1 health patrons, but there's just gonna be more patrons, and that's it!
Our first semifinalist has been decided, and it is a European, all the way from the Netherlands. Thijs ends up qualifying for a top 4, stopping Kranich from his tracks.
A very, very close match. You know, we saw that go the full 5 games, and there were opportunities for each player to win in a lot of those spots, but Thijs was able to come out victorious.
Yeah, that last turn from Kranich says it all. It was 1 kill command away from taking the game, even though it looks so bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, Thijs was able to pick up the weapons that he needed, and he was able to find that Grim Patron, put a bunch of them in play, and then with that Armor Smith, keep himself out of range of even Unleash the Hounds finishing him off.
The dream is still alive for Thijs as he is the victor for now, and we'll be waiting a winner's interview in just a moment, but let's go ahead and reflect on what this series means. It means our first European ever has advanced to the semifinals of the HWC. Also, the only player to bring Priest to this tournament is also still in the tournament, and the Priest is looking pretty decent here.
Dragon Priest for World Champion, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, well, Kibler's happy, and I think everyone else is pretty collectively happy to see some of these classes that honestly seem, you know, a little weaker than some of the really powerful classes that you see all the time on ladder.
Yeah, but the Dragon Priest certainly convincing here. It took its game quite easily.
That's right. And the Patron Warrior as well, being able to grab a win. Sure, the undefeated streak has ended, but at the same time, that doesn't really matter. Whether you win by an inch or mile, a win is a win. And right now, Rachel is down.